A dim glow hung over the dark bog, shrouding it in an eerie luminescence that blurred the boundary between reality and the ethereal. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying vegetation, each breath clinging to the lungs like a damp fog. Stagnant black water stretched out in all directions, its surface marred only by faint ripples, as though something unseen stirred beneath. The oppressive atmosphere was alive, breathing slowly, waiting for a spark to stir its ancient slumber. Zephyr stood atop a weathered stone pillar that rose defiantly from the muck. His figure was a stark silhouette against the faint shimmer of moonlight breaking through a patchwork of sullen clouds. Dressed in his dark purple robes that clung to his lean frame, he carried an aura of command and contemplation. His gaze swept the bog like a sentinel surveying a battlefield, though this place was no ordinary domain. It thrummed with a primal energy, its rhythm matching the pulse of the unseen dream clock. Below, the water shifted subtly, an almost imperceptible movement that hinted at hidden depths. Kenyon, the wish drake, floated lazily in the mire. Its massive form was an enigma, both majestic and grotesque. Papery lips curved into an unnerving smile, stretching upward like a crooked hill, while elongated fishhook whiskers curled and nodded, swaying with unseen currents. Atop its head, a shimmering green gate radiated a faint light, its eerie glow casting fractured patterns on the water's surface. Zephyr's voice broke the stillness, soft and introspective. "The flow," he murmured, his sharp eyes catching the faint ripples below. The once stagnant water began to stir. The change was subtle at first, a mere quickening of the sluggish surface, but it carried a quiet energy that spread outward, transforming the bog's oppressive stillness into an expectant rhythm. Zephyr tilted his head, studying the movement like a tactician reading the signs of a battlefield. "The water is becoming less stagnant," he observed. The pillar beneath him trembled faintly, resonating with the water's rising cadence. An ancient hum filled the air, a sound that seemed to originate not from the bog but from the very fabric of the dreamlike realm. "The dream clock makes its revolution known," Zephyr whispered, his tone carrying the weight of understanding. He took a deliberate step forward, his footing sure despite the slick surface of the stone around him. The bog shifted. Tendrils of blackened roots rose from the mire, twisting briefly before sinking back, releasing faint, wispy lights like the dying breath of trapped spirits. "These roots take courage," he declared. His voice was steady, carrying across the bog like a beacon. As if in response, the water began to clear, its dark sludge receding to reveal hidden treasures buried in the muck. Gemstones glinted faintly beneath the surface, their colors muted but unmistakable. "The water washes the sludge away," Zephyr said, a glimmer of hope igniting in his piercing gaze. The clarity grew, luminous orbs emerging from the depths like stars rising in a night sky, the mud giving way to clarity. The horizon began to shift. A pale golden glow seeped into the edges of the dreamscape, pushing back the oppressive gloom. Zephyr lifted his head, the emerging light reflected in his determined expression. A quiet smile played on his beak, faint but resolute. "Morning grows, gains girth," he intoned. His words carried an almost prophetic weight, as though spoken not to the bog but to something far greater. Below him, Kenyon stirred, its massive body undulating gently in the water. The wish drake's unsettling grin widened, its disfigured whiskers twisting and untangling in intricate patterns. A low rumbling voice emerged from deep within its chest, reverberating like the tolling of a distant bell. "You've come a mighty long way," Kenyon said, his tone both amused and approving. "Played many a card, even made it this far, with the game on hard." A faint chuckle followed, rolling through the bog like a wave. Kenyon's green gate pulsed rhythmically, casting sharper beams of light that sliced through the gloom. "It will be exciting to see what you birth next, Ronin of Pages." Zephyr's gaze met the drake's, unflinching. His fingers flexed slightly, as though feeling the echoes of unseen patterns etched into his skin. "Eye of the Void," Kenyon continued. Its voice was thick with ancient wisdom, the pure darkness in which materialization comes to be. "Now all that pours from your talons are translations of what you see." Zephyr glanced down at his wings, his expression contemplative. Kenyon's words carried the weight of prophecy, each syllable a thread weaving into the tapestry of the moment. "Patterns you've etched, only for a single revolution, not even," Kenyon's voice dipped into a more solemn tone. "Zephyr, this climb is yours." Zephyr's jaw tightened, his resolve was a palpable force, mirrored by the water's increasingly violent churn. Dark tendrils lashed the surface, reaching toward the green gate before sinking back into the depths. The air around them crackled with raw energy. The bog was alive with anticipation. "This is your season," Kenyon rumbled, its voice rising above the chaos. "Keep evolving and stepping forward." The wish drake's whiskers curled into sharper, more jagged hooks, their movements punctuating its words. "Apollo, the muse of the sun, has granted you a boon, to smith the strings of the earth's harp." Zephyr tilted his head slightly, absorbing the cryptic declaration. The green gate atop Kenyon's head pulsed in time with the bog's rhythm, an unspoken heartbeat shared between them. Who are you becoming? Kenyon asked, the question cutting through the silence. The one who morphs the dream, a glitch in the system, a mutation of the puzzle, a new config, a beast, the omen of which the Titan's tongue is preached. Each phrase rolled over Zephyr like black waves, each one heavier than the last. He tightened his grip on the pillar's edge, his silhouette sharp against the faint light growing in the distance. Around him, the bog seemed to expand infinitely, its depths unfathomable. Endless horizons you dig and stack, Kenyon said, its tone softening. You get what you give. Life has a way of boomeranging back. Zephyr exhaled slowly, the weight of the wishdrake's words sinking into his bones. He stared into the swirling patterns below, the dark waters reflecting his inner turmoil and resolve. Well, Zephyr said quietly, the only other option is sleep. He turned his gaze to Kenyon, his expression steady yet tinged with defiance. And that, you will need to shepherd these sheep through evolution. A deep resonant chuckle rumbled from Kenyon, the sound echoing across the bog like distant thunder. The green gate on its head flashed brightly, momentarily bathing the dreamscape in its glow. The volcanic emergence, Kenyon intoned, the crown of sparks. Time to meet your team. The beast unleashed tears from the dark. Good luck, bird. Don't miss the mark. As Kenyon's laughter faded, the bog seemed to exhale one final time. The water stilled, its surface smoothing into an almost mirror-like clarity. The green gate's light softened, its glow fading into a faint shimmer that danced across the water. Zephyr stood tall atop the pillar, his figure framed by the emerging light of the dream horizon. His eyes burned with determination, his resolve an unshakable force as he prepared to face the trials ahead. The bog was no longer a place of stagnation. It was a crucible, a proving ground, and Zephyr was ready to forge his path through its depths.